All right, welcome to Locked On Heat. We're recording this just minutes after news breaking that the Miami Heat are sending Dewayne Dedmon and a second-round pick to the San Antonio Spurs for cash considerations. First reported by The Athletic. David, just immediate thoughts on this deal, because this is certainly one that everybody was expecting to happen.
It was the most likeliest of scenarios, regardless of what happens next for Miami. And the trade of Dedmon certainly opens up more possibilities because of the roster clearing space there. Not only does it move away from the 14 people you already had on the roster, but now you have one less in Dedmon, so you can trade conceivably another player in exchange for two more back. But it just seems like this was etched in stone after the Theragun incident on the sidelines. It was only a matter of time. Dedmon had fallen out of the rotation. He played in one game just because of injuries to Orlando Robinson and Udonis Haslem. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have played at all since the Theragun incident. Yeah. And he kind of said it too. He says, now I know where I am in terms of where my standing on the team. I got some clarification following the Theragun incident. And then basically, it was just only a matter of time until Miami pulled the trigger. We talked about this at length, that they would have to send him to a team with the kind of cap space to absorb his salary. There was Oklahoma City as a possibility, but you had mentioned San Antonio being the most likely, and it turned out to be exactly right.
Yeah, I was looking at Indiana and San Antonio specifically, and then the Pacers extended Miles Turner and basically evaporated their cap space. So really the Spurs were the one that was the most logical move. To get into the finer details of this, it was a 2028 second-round pick that's going back to San Antonio. So now the Heat only have a single second-round pick that they could trade until this summer, and that's the 2029 second-round pick. They owe all of their other picks up until 2029 now. This frees nearly $5 million in space below the luxury tax. The Heat, prior to this trade, had been operating with about $200,000 in space below the luxury tax. So that $5 million, Dewayne Dedmon making $4.7 million, the Spurs, they're sending cash considerations back. So in other words, no additional salary coming back to Miami. So now they have this $5 million of space. They could do a couple different things now with this. I think a lot of people have sort of earmarked that spot and that space for Orlando Robinson, but Orlando Robinson just fractured his thumb. He's going to be out for probably another month now. And so I don't think it's any guarantee that Orlando Robinson, I actually would be surprised if Orlando Robinson gets one of these 15-man roster spots at this point, because you'd only be signing him for about another month of the season by the time he's healthy. Right. And as much as we're impressed with Orlando Robinson, I don't think anybody expects him to be part of a playoff rotation because he's a rookie. You also need to carve out some time for Omer Yurtseven to get into the rotation, because he's going to be coming back soon after the All-Star break. So I think the Orlando Robinson injury, I kind of buys Miami time. He had just like 10 more NBA games available under the restrictions of his two-way contract prior to fracturing his thumb. So you still have 10 more games with him if you need him, kind of break glass in case of emergency, but you give an opportunity now to work Omer Yurtseven into the lineup. Plus, not only can you be players in the trade market, you could also be players in the buyout market or the free agent market. How many comments do you and I get, David, about, hey, the Heat should sign DeMarcus Cousins? I don't know that they're going to sign DeMarcus Cousins, but I know they couldn't do it before, even if they wanted to, right? Because they didn't have enough space. Now, if the Heat want to go out and sign a free agent, DeMarcus Cousins or otherwise, and I don't want to have the DeMarcus Cousins conversation, I was just using him as an example, the Heat are able to do that kind of thing now. And that $5 million isn't just one player. You can add up to two players on minimum salaries. Now, if a player gets bought out, that player could, of course, ask for more than the minimum, but it just gives the Heat that kind of flexibility to be players in a way that they weren't before.
Yeah, even today, there were reports that the Los Angeles Lakers and Utah Jazz had exchanged talks already, resulting in a possible Russell Westbrook to Jazz move.
Oh, here we go.
And as a result, the Jazz would then buy him out, and that he's already been linked to Miami as a buyout candidate. So there's already plans there. I'm sure Heat fans have already gone 85 steps ahead of where the actual trade market is. But we're already allocating roster spots for Boogie Cousins, Russell Westbrook, half the Clippers roster, and who knows who else by the time the trade deadline actually passes.
So in terms of what the Heat can do with the spot, you're right. Like Russell Westbrook, John Wall, another guy who could get bought out. I know that there's been talks about, less of a name, but probably a better player than those other two. Will Barton. out of Washington. He's a little upset. I know that there's things happening in Orlando regarding like Terrence Ross, Gary Harris, like there's guys will hit the buyout market. In terms of what the Heat are actually looking for, they're looking for front court help. We know that. They're looking for maybe a starting caliber power forward that could help Caleb Martin sort of slide back to his natural position on the perimeter, on the wing. So looking for that, but also I think looking for more backup center help. Given that Orlando Robinson is hurt, that you still have him as a possibility coming up on the two-way contract. You're getting Omer Yurtseven back, but really what you're looking at with Bam being your only healthy center is kind of an injured, coming back from injury, Omer Yurtseven, and then Orlando Robinson, who's hurt right now, and Udonis Haslem, of course. Did not mean to forget Udonis Haslem. I apologize deeply.
Plus, there's also the possibility of acquiring one via trade too. Like, I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, if somehow they acquire Kelly Olynyk, he would probably be not just your starting 4, but also your backup 5 as well.
Right. Kelly Olynyk. You could do the same thing with somebody like Jared Vanderbilt that the Heat have been. John Collins from Atlanta. Like, all these guys could potentially play backup center minutes too. So I think that's what the Heat are looking for. And when we are talking about trades, we've already mentioned sort of what this allows them to do in terms of free agency and buyout guys, but it also allows them to take money back in a trade, which is really important. Now you have that $5 million of cushion, whereas before the Heat were limited in any kind of fake trade proposal that people want to come up with. They were limited in basically not taking any additional salary back. $5 million might not sound like a lot, but in terms of cushion in a trade, it is a lot. Like, this allows, so for instance, right, Kyle Lowry is making $28.3 to be exact, $28.3 million this year. If you were going to try to look for Kyle Lowry trades, you were basically capped at bringing back $28 million or something close to it. Now you're allowed to bring back $32 million. That's a whole other range of players. That allows a lot of different kinds of possibilities. And not to just be Kyle Lowry, but Duncan Robinson too. We know that the Heat are also shopping Duncan Robinson the way that they were shopping Dewayne Dedmon. Duncan Robinson making $18 million this year. That gives you $5 million of additional cap space. The Heat also have their first-round picks, because they didn't move any of those in this deal, where they could basically pair, let's call it Duncan Robinson and a first-round pick, to another team. That team can now send back a little bit more money. Maybe that additional salary is also under contract for more years, but maybe that player is a little bit more helpful for Miami. A name that just comes to mind, for instance, no reporting behind this. I don't even know if this is a good idea, but Terry Rozier from Charlotte. Just a name. He's making about $22 million. That's in that cushion, right? And he's still under contract for 3 more years, just the way Duncan Robinson is. But maybe Charlotte's motivated to get off that money. I don't know. Just a name, just an example. So these are the kinds of things that are available to Miami.
It was just the right move. Like, we had talked about the surety of this happening, but there are additional benefits to Miami, giving the flexibility in the salary cap and the roster. You can do more. If they had managed to package Dedmon and Duncan Robinson or a pick or something like that, yes, in exchange for more salary or a better player, likely, then, it would have made a lot of sense too. But barring the possibility of that deal being finalized, we saw the transaction that we saw today, Dedmon getting sent out, and it still gives them all the kind of flexibility. I think this is the big question, right? Most people are thinking, are the Heat done? And I agree with that line of thinking. I see this as being the precursor for a further move. I'm not sure what that move is, as we talked about. It could be Kyle Lowry, it could be Duncan Robinson, it could be something even smaller, but it definitely seems like Miami is setting themselves up, giving them the flexibility to not just avoid, the salary cap, but also create some roster maneuverability, a little flexibility there. They're in a prime position now to be able to make a number of different moves that could help this roster in the short term and the long term.
Well, first of all, the Heat are not done because they're not allowed to be done. They only have 13 guys under contract. You need 14 guys on the 15-man roster.
That's why you signed Whiteside, right? Or Russell Westbrook or whoever.
Well,
there's all those possibilities. Yeah.
They are going to sign somebody. And like I said before, I don't think it's going to be Orlando Robinson. I would be very surprised if it were Orlando Robinson at this point, because he's hurt and there's no reason to bring him up. So they're going to go out and do something. Now, because there's, I think, 30 days, 20 days, something like that, amount of time that you have to fill that 14th spot to get up to the NBA minimum of players. The Heat have some time to work here. And I don't even think this trade is official yet. It's just reported right now. Right. So the Heat are going to have some time to work. And they've got 48 hours thereabouts until the NBA trade deadline, Thursday, 3 p.m. So something's going to happen. We'll be here to tell you what it is. Remember to check out Locked On Heat on YouTube and wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, check out our live stream on Thursday, right around the NBA trade deadline. We are going live on YouTube at 2:30 Eastern time to preview the last 30 minutes before the trade deadline, everything that happens up till then, and then we'll be with you at and immediately after the trade deadline to break everything down and whatever it is that the Miami Heat end up doing. But David, that's it for now. Thanks for joining me.
It's all happening. I'm going to miss Dwayne, I'll be honest with you.